rampo pa gyo trashi pa tuche tempe trinle yarmoda pelge trolor zampe ze parche palden lame shabla solvade Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Monisha Sanekar Uta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Monisha Uta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Monisha Sanekar Uta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Monisha Uta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Monisha Uta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Monisha Sanek Uta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Monisha Sanekar Uta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Monisha Sanek Uta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Monisha Sanekar Uta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Monisha Sanek Uta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Monisha Sanekar Uta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Monisha Sanekar Uta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Monisha Uta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Dhagi Jetsun Lama Tuje Che Nyamda Dala Tuje Siksu So Gebe Shesan Dala Tendo So Uyon Sunge Nawa Tsedo So Tsechi Nyingne Solwa Debe Tse Dechen Korlo Visu Lekshune Yila Sambe Dede Malupa Gemel Hungi Drubra Chingelo Soni Sogdan Diktun Shape Tse Dunge Namke Yinsu Lekshune Lapchen Tsoni Yonsu Tsopa Dan Chera Nyetun Chanwara Chingelo Chancho Parge Nyinsen Tukun Tu Nyu Peme Siudru Lekshu Chancho Drube Gegen Kunshi Shi Tungen Dela Drubra Chingelo Dagi Lona Chela Chokpa Dan Chemin Samjur Ngemba Shiwa Dan Chedan Tumbe Deden Malupa Bemel Hungi Drubra Chingelo Dorna Tingne Tsirava Tamche Dan Teche Pardu Nekav Tamche Tu Rese Kyamne Lama Kele Me Tukche Chingi Dala Siksu Sol Gongyab Drewe Nyamda Dachala Jetsun Lame Tuche Rabgongne Kudan Sungi Nawa Drame Tu Nyamsu Nyongwe Kesan Topra Sho Kewa Kundu Yanda Lama Dan Drame Cheki Pela Longche Chin Sadan Lamgi Yunde Rabzone Dorje Changi Kopa Nyur Tobe Sho Pakyuke Kudan Dagi Lu Pakyuke Sundan Dagi Dakyuke tukdan dage ye ten yerme chiktu chingi lo makyuke kudan dage lo makyuke sungdan dage nga makyuke tukdan dage ye ten yerme chiktu chingi lo Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha. Sashipeki Choshimeto Tramare Rabalingashi Nidegeampadi Sangye Shinto Mite Ulwarki Drokun Amanda Shinglam Chöpar Shoyidamang Guru Ratna Mindrala Kam Niryatayami Sangye Chedan Tsoge Chonam Lai Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchra Sangye Drupar Sho Sangye Chedan Tsoge Chonam Lai Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchra Sangye Drupar Sho Sangye Chedan Tsoge Chonam Lai Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchra Sangye Drupar Sho.
In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. With the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Buongiorno.
Good morning. Sometimes one of the mistakes that we make is believing that understanding is enough, in the sense that one thing is a theoretical understanding, conceptual. Instead, our deep habits, that's something else. To change a concept, we need to generate a new concept, and to generate a new habit, we need we we need to actually learn a new habit. And to do that, we need to repeat something differently. We familiarize ourselves with that until it becomes natural and spontaneous. So to familiarize ourselves with something, we need to come into contact with that thing. To create a habit, we need to repeat something. So if we want to create a physical habit related to the way we eat, the way we sleep, we need to repeat that action with a certain constancy until it becomes more and more natural and easier. There's a passage in the text of Shantideva and the Bodhisattva Charvatara that says, Kom la lawar mikyepe. There's nothing that is not easy once we're used to it. So, starting with our physical habits, our body itself. If we need to walk more, for example, for someone who never walks, who's sedentary, it's very difficult at the beginning. But then walking with constancy, little by little, then it becomes a habit. Someone who is, and the opposite is true, someone who is always running, it's difficult to stay still. But the body adapts to what it does. And this and also is true for the way we eat, the way we drink, the way we sleep, the way we move. And the same thing's true for our speech. The more I speak in a certain way, the easier it is for me to speak in that way. That's normal. And the same thing is true for our mind. The more I think in a certain way, the more it becomes natural for me to think in that way. This related to a more conceptual way of thinking, and it's true also for our emotional way of being, related to various types of feelings of anger, jealousy. I mean, it's possible to familiarize ourselves with a certain inner state, but it's not something we do once and that's enough. For example, starting with the example of a physical habit, if I want to get used to walking a lot, it's not enough to walk once. Oh, today I walked 20 kilometers. Okay. But what you need is to walk every day a little bit more. So then it becomes normal and natural to walk up to 20 kilometers a day. So it's important somehow to see that it's not enough to do it once. It requires constancy. And every time we do that thing, somehow we are softening the opposite attitude until little by little it substitutes it. It takes its place. But there's a delicate phase towards the beginning, to the half. The image that comes to my mind is, let's imagine an object that's very rigid and we want to bring it to the opposite side. At the beginning, we put effort, and then when we stop putting effort, what happens? It goes back. We need to be able to have enough constancy so that when we're able to put effort little by little a bit, until little by little it's used to staying in that position, And then once I get halfway, I keep it, and the longer I can stay there, the less effort it requires. And then at a certain point, it just, I take away my effort, it stays there. And our mind is the same. Our inner habits work exactly like this. So the practices, the sadhanas that we do, like the Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa, it's a movement of familiarization. These are tools to get our mind used to certain positive mental states that don't come to us spontaneously. And that's why in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, we see there's the part of philosophy that's very important, but it's just the beginning. Because once we've understood, we need to realize, we need to familiarize ourselves to be able to actually transform ourselves and not stay on a conceptual level. But let's say that there are two ways to create these experiences. One are very strong experiences that one can have, and sometimes in the life there are those experiences that are extremely strong that leave their mark. There's a before and after, or experiences that are not necessarily that strong, but are constant. The strong experiences, those are not things that we can induce. It's something that the life brings us somehow, sometimes. Well, instead, these sweeter, these softer experiences that are done with constancy is something that we have control over. So, having said that, one of the beautiful characteristics of our mind is that what we go to, what we imagine, is something that we live. We have this power with imagination. When we imagine something for our mind, for our being, and even physically, it's as if we had lived something, really lived something. And I've just on a side note, quickly, one of my great worries related to the digital world. For now, luckily, it's all these parallel worlds are not haven't rooted themselves so quickly into our daily lives the way we thought that it was going to happen. But when you have a virtual experience, you're living that experience. So if I'm living an experience that helps me familiarize my mind with what I want to become, that's one thing. But if I use virtual reality to live unhealthy things, to escape some other world, then it can happen that one is not able to relate to reality. It's very delicate. Well, anyway, that's I don't want to get into this right now, but anyway, the practices like the Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa or like self-healing, we can say that it's a kind of virtual reality that's that we self-generate, not something generated externally. It's where one creates a certain reality, one experiences it, lives it, and then one goes back to the so-called starting point, the world that we call the ours now. But this experience induces a kind, it induces an inner state of being, an inner state of our mind. And the more we do it, the more familiarized we become with it. So our principal objective is to familiarize ourselves with an inner state of peace, an inner state of love, an inner state of wisdom, of harmony, balance. This is stability. This is our main objective. To do this, there's all the support, everything else. Let's say that this inner experience of peace and stability and love, etc., is like the flower that blossoms. But to blossom a flower, I shouldn't concentrate on the flower. I need to concentrate on the soil, on the fertilizer, on the water, on the sun. Create all the favorable conditions so that naturally arises. Similarly, there's the practice. There's the preliminary part of the practice, which help create the conditions to generate that inner state of peace and so forth, so that it's something sincere, something real, and this is a little bit how it comes about. I wanted to explain it in these terms because in these modern times, we have this need to want to understand things. Otherwise, there's the danger that it becomes simply a recitation, and we don't really understand what we're doing. Recitation is important because our speech directs our mind. So we're directing our thoughts and directing our visualizations, what we're going to imagine. Remember that visualizing is like imagining, and then that imagination brings us to experience a kind of inner state of being. What I'd like to do now, first of all, is to give you the transmission of the Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa, and then also because a very important aspect in our tradition is that when we do a meditation practice, it's important to have the transmission. It's not an obligation in the sense Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa. Even if one doesn't have the transmission, one can still do it. But if you have the transmission, it's better. So an oral transition, just in a few words, is I received this practice from many masters. Kyabche Drago Rinpoche, Lama Ganchen Rinpoche, Kyabche Trisha Rinpoche, from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the Abbot of Tashi Lumpo, Kachin Losam Punsok, from many Geshe Yeshe Wanchuk, from many masters, and they had received from their masters, getting all the way back to Lama Tsongkhapa. There's this uninterrupted line of transmission that arrives to us, and in this case to me, and now I share with you. So first of all, let's do the oral transmission, and then we will briefly do the practice together, where we will we'll do the practice, and I will give a very brief explanation, more than explanation, but just very brief instructions for the visualizations in every step of the practice. So that we do the practice together, and at the same time you learn a little bit about it. If you don't have the booklet of the Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa, it's not a problem in this moment. If you want to do the practice, you'll need to get it. But given that I will guide every part of the practice, you can concentrate on what should be imagined. So we visualize above me are my masters like Lama Ganchen Rinpoche. All the other masters of the lineage, above them and above them, all the way up to Lama Tsongkhapa. From the heart of each one of them, like a flow of light and nectar, bringing the meaning, the essence of this practice, that arrives to my heart, and from my heart to yours.
Simje damje dewa dan dewe gyudan demar gyuje simje damje dunga dan dunga ki gyudan trawa gyuje simje damje dunga mebe dewa dan mi dewa gyuje simje damje nyirin jadan nidan rewe dan yola ne ba gyuje simje damje lu simgi dunga le zoshin raye lu zan dewa dan demar gyuje simje damje nga zo dobje chinan ne jo koryo tanshi zamane gyuje simje damje dan zambu lingi genro dada chinan ki chide dan tukun demar gyure che kunjo sumgi demba dan sange dan janjo sempa damje yo tamje duni saji da sema la zo me ba na la de dan nyembe nore raje jambo ne gyuje la da miye jobe zengo zo shadan yegi rukun sa jiren la na me na ge kango ki gyurje Omo namo bhagavate benza sarva brahmadane tada gata yarate samyasam buddhaya daya tam benze ma teza benze ma vidya benze ma bodhicitta benze ma bodhi mandupa sangramana benze sarva karma varana vichudana benze soha kunjo sumge dembana sangedan janjo sempadam jeki chingiladan soni yonzo sope ngata jembodan jeki ye namar tashin sang Migya pedopki deji nitu gyurche kandela ke kungi tu kane ramka josa punre jone de joki gyabo kungi lozan rase dan cheba ne de chesa sodungi namka zirre bene denje zon lama kembe zongarche talo debe suna shinjo to tempa keji Kelgara shu so so shiji kungu jabe loro do kesa nama kingu le jeson rabe pege lame zebe go tondo rebe tende la jase yuwan choya na zome do dante shindu bana se reja zongo chan iro jorin keso de sanam shinjo kela Choba buyo kanshi tome dune saba ilunga ike mige chigi dan kibar domba sumge mido jo ninin ke batrabo sosro chan nime dudi mando rola so jo ke babe de jo dunye che kumbo kyo ke la chenze bala daja samba tabe irangwa jeson lama damba kenamke Chogo kala kenze tindine jidar sambe duje zimala sabke choki charba to son namda weze ine shenpa yi sonjo kula chana mingayan Tame nangu roso, tame nangu sukura ye sete bardo mino tembracho. Dagi jinye zabe ke wadi tenda rowa kunla kambe da ke bracho zo losan rabaye tembe nimbo rendo se je jo sa je peke juji medo rarira leche nidi ken pati sange jendo mite wargi. Rogo namda jinla jobracho idan guru ratna mandala kam niri ata ya mi emi me sewe deje jenre se teme kembe wambo jambeli andubo malo jonse sameda kanche kebe suke zongaba losan rabe chabla sovat. Oma guru vajradara sumati kirti sede hong hong yonde kunge jigyuri jeje tuji temba lamge zawaro leba tone beba de mayi kuba jembo tembra jengilo. Lenji nyebe dewa tensa di shindu nyega dunje jegyo nenyin zengundo nyimbo lembelon kenje meba kewara jengelo loso yowa chula. Yoso yowa chuye chubu shinyo tu jibe shiwa rembadan shiwe jesu ludan trimanshin kanale re chichi tenwa la ngeba tempo nyene nyebe so. Lashin trawa namkya poma tan keso tata trupa jeba la tato bada tembra jengilo. Chebe mingo dunga kunge ko ide miru sebe bunso ke nyemi rine tabe dewala dunye jembo kewara jengelo namda sambe yone tembo. Rambaye tenda shichin payo jembo tembe sawa soto tabala trupa nyimbo chebra jengelo rani siso luwa jishin to makyo trupa. Kunga dendra wa tone trupa trupa kunge we janjo semjo jomar jengelo semsa kega zure nanzo la kumba mena janjo mi trupa lekbar tone kese tombala samba trabo lobar jengelo lobe yola yewa chiye shin yandan tola suji chebai. Shine la to sunjo trewe la nyordo gyula kewara jengelo tomo la nedo gyuba na tekwa kunge chokyo zure te kesa kewa jongo tamba te tela nido jubar jengelo te zengoro namnyen trupe shin namda tesito. Soma o che ma minbe ngeba nyegyone so tando te sonra jengelo teni gyute nyimborim nyege nenam jishin tone tombai. Tinshe ne jo chole miya wa dambe sonshi rubar jingelo deda lamsa tembe shinye dan sushi rubar runa shaten shi china nangi bardo jobe so nyewar shiwar jingelo dozo kewa kondo yanda lama dan rame jogi pela loncho chi sata lamgi yande na zone doje jange koba nyordo chopa den zawe lama rambu jeda ki chibor pede tenjo la karinche mogone je sonde kusum togi ngoro Pande zawe lama rambu jeda ki trimbar pede tenjo la karinche mogone je sonde chodan tumo ngoro zendo son pande zawe lama rambu jeda ki nyingar pede tenjo la karinche mogone je sonde Janjo nimbe bardo tembra sho oma arapa tsana di guru sumati kirti shri badra sarva siddhi atishtana atishtiti kurban to tsira kundu gyawa zanga bete jo shinyi ngoro zebeto gyawe ngakpe lamsam tenye la keche tsamnyan doba magyur chi chizon lame goze rabne chi namkari le jojo ge badan losan teme drame zazon ki dhruwe menze dado ne gyo chi gyawa kundu yanda lama dan rame jo ki bela lonjo chi sada lam gyon Dorje jangi koba nyudo sho janjo senjo rambo je ma keba na kegyo je keba nyamba me banya kone kondo bebar jo keba diye nyudo dala ma zange rugyo roba je kema le pate sala gobra sho Nimo dele zendele nime kunye dele shinyi sen tato dele pe kunjo sumge jingelo kunjo sumge ngoro zo kunjo sumge tra she jo ngoro kunjo duwa dorje jami me zewe de je jenre zi trime kembe wambo jambeli andubo malo jonze samwe da kaje kebe tuken Losan ra kebzon kondo lama zange la gozum kebe kone sowa de ran shimi jindro war jingelo chodan tumong odro tsedu so Chodan tumong odro tsedu son.
Now, in the sadhana, there's also the transmission of what's called the foundation of all good qualities, Yontin Kungi Shurkwa, which we won't. It's a lam rim, And we're not going to look at that now. Now we'll concentrate on the Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa and the three principal aspects of the path. So now let's do together the practice of the Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa. So first of all, we sit in a comfortable position with our back straight but not tense. Our shoulders are relaxed. Our head is slightly bent forward. Our mouth is relaxed. And our eyes are slightly closed, looking downwards. With kindness, we bring our attention to our own breath. We allow ourselves to be present in this present moment. Without forcing our breath, we observe the air that comes in and the air that goes out. We allow ourselves to be present in this present moment. Any thought that has to do with our past, the future, or anything else that is other than just experiencing this present moment, observing our own breath, we don't give any importance to these thoughts. As they arise, we let them leave, go away. In the space in front of us arises Guru Buddha in the aspect of Buddha Shakyamuni. We observe ourselves and we ask ourselves what we really want. We recognize within this deep desire to be happy and to not want to suffer. We recognize that it's not possible to satisfy this desire solely with a material development of the world around us, but that we have to develop love, patience, stability, harmony, wisdom, overcoming our own so-called mental defilements. And to do that, we need help. We ask Guru Buddha, who has already realized this path, we ask him to help us, to guide us along the path, to concede us the Dharma. We take refuge in Buddha, in the Dharma, and to accompany us along our path, we take refuge in the Sangha. From the 5 chakras of Guru Buddha, light rays emanate that absorb into our respective 5 chakras. Guru Buddha smiles at us, and we feel loved and protected. Guru Buddha concedes us refuge. We observe around us, and we see the existence of many, many beings. Our parents, our family members, our friends, all the people to whom we have a particular attraction, all the beings for whom we have attraction, all of those for whom we have indifference, and also those for whom we have a kind of aversion, where there's a kind of conflict. And then we remember that every being without exception desires to be happy and doesn't want to suffer, just like us. We allow ourselves to go beyond our own selfishness, our own self-centeredness. We see that strong attachment to our strong attachment to a desire to be happy and our aversion for suffering. We allow this feeling to expand and include others. And we see others and we say to them, your happiness is as important to me as my own. Your suffering is as important to me as my own. And I'll do everything I can to help you to be well and to not suffer. To help other beings, we see clearly that the only thing that we can actually do is to develop our own qualities, to get out of the cycle of suffering, to be able to help others do the same. We deeply desire ourselves to become a Buddha so that we can help every being do the same. And for this reason, we take the commitment for the development of our own inner qualities. In Buddha, in the Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. With the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Rola pinchira sangye drupra sho sangye chodan sogi chonamla jancho pardo dani kyapso chi dagi jinso gibe sonam ki Rola pinchira sangye drupra sho sangye chodan sogi chonamla jancho pardo dani kyapso chi dagi jinso gibe sonam ki Rola pinchira sangye drupar sho.
An emanation of Guru Buddha comes towards us, enters through our crown, and sits joyously at our heart. From our heart, inseparable from Guru Buddha, light rays emanate to all the beings around us, bringing each one to a state of peace. The light rays come back and reabsorb into our heart.
Simjen tamche dunga mebe dewa dam mitre wara kyurchi Simjen tamche nyerin chada nidan rewe tanyom la nebra kyurchi Simjen tamche lusimgi dunga le soshin trayun lusen dewa dan dembra kyurchi Simjen tamche ngaso topchin china nuchu koryo tanshin sangmara ne gyurchi Simjen tamche dan zambu lingi kendro tat chinangi shide tan tukun dembra kyurchi.
May all beings have happiness and its causes. May all beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all beings never be separated from the great happiness that is beyond all misery. May all beings dwell in equanimity, unaffected by attraction to dear ones and aversion to others. May all beings recover from the sicknesses of mind and body pollution and enjoy relative and absolute health now and forever. May all beings relax in a pure and healthy outer and inner environment now and forever. May all beings enjoy inner and world peace now and forever. We deeply desire to help all beings in any way to reach this state of peace. And to do this, we need ourselves to develop our qualities, become a Buddha ourselves. And for this reason, we want to now do the practice of Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa. Guru Buddha in front of us dissolves into a beautiful golden light, comes towards us, enters through our forehead, fills up our body, and expands throughout our entire body, the entire universe. Everything dissolves into light. From an infinite luminous void, empty of inherent existence, inseparable from great bliss. We are this union of great bliss and emptiness. The universe reappears. We arise in a body of light. From our heart, light rays emanate that purify the entire environment around us, eliminating any kind of conflict or impurity. In the space in front of us, an ocean of offerings arise. May the earth become pure without roughness or thorns, even like the palm of a child's hand, and smooth in nature like lapis lazuli. May the real and imagined offerings of gods and humans, as well as clouds of supreme offerings of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra, pervade the entire expanse of limitless space.
Sangramana benze sarva karma avaran vishodana benze swaha kuncho suman kedem padam sangye tanchan chuba sempa tam cheki chingi labdam
By the truth power of the three jewels and the blessings of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, as well as by the great strength generated by the two accumulations and the power of the pure and inconceivable Dharma Dhatu, may these offerings become real. In the space in front of us, above this ocean of offerings, high above, Buddha Maitreya is there in the pure land of Tushita. Buddha Maitreya is seated on a kind of throne and in the mudra of teaching the Dharma. Buddha Maitreya is extremely beautiful with a loving aspect. He's surrounded by Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. From his heart, a cloud, white like yogurt, that comes from very far, the pure land of Tushita, and comes here to us. On top of that, on a throne upheld by 8 lions, and on a throne of sun and moon is seated Lama Tsongkhapa. On his sides are his 2 spiritual sons. At our left, there's Gyatse Rinpoche, slightly older and in a kinder aspect. And to our right is Kedrup Rinpoche, younger, with a slightly wrathful stare. Lama Tsongkhapa smiles at us with a very, very loving look. He's seated with his legs crossed in the Vajra position in monastic robes, and he's wearing a yellow tipped hat. His monk's robes that are yellow and red represent his nature of wisdom and love, compassion. From his crown is the syllable Om at his throat, the syllable A, and his heart Hum, showing that he's inseparable from all Buddhas. On the summit of a cloud which resembles a heap of fresh white curd emanating from the heart of the Lord of 100 deities of Tushita, sits omniscient Sumatakitri, the king of the Dharma, together with his sons. I request them to descend to this place. So from the depth of our hearts, we ask Lama Tsongkhapa to come with his sons, to come here, to this place. And the visualization in front of us, this commitment being, light rays go to Lama Tsongkhapa, into the land of Tushita, and to all the Buddhas in the 10 directions, asking them to come here to bless us. We ask them to come here to bless us so that we can develop ourselves, our own qualities, and become of the same nature of Lama Tsongkhapa, to help every being get out of his own suffering. We make requests from the depth of our hearts to Buddha Lama Tsongkhapa to come here. In the space before me, upon a lion throne, a lotus, sun and moon, appears Venerable Guru. You, smiling radiantly with delight, you supreme field for my faithful mind's collection of merit. In order that the teachings may flourish, I request that you remain for hundreds of eons. Lama Tsongkhapa and all the Buddhas accept the request. An emanation of each one comes here and absorbs into the commitment being visualized in front of us. Lama Tsongkhapa, with his 2 sons visualized in front of us, become inseparable and of the same nature as every Buddha and Bodhisattva, every holy being. In the actual presence of Lama Tsongkhapa in front of us, the commitment being, having become inseparable from the wisdom being, we make praise, we make prostrations to Lama Tsongkhapa. The wisdom of your mind embraces the full extent of all that can be known. Your well-explained teachings are the ear ornament of the fortunate ones. Your beautiful body is illuminated by the glory of your fame. I prostrate to you, whom to see, hear, or recollect is meaningful. In the presence of Lama Tsongkhapa, we make offerings in a state of gratitude, faith. We show our feelings in the form of offerings. From our heart, offering deities come that bring Lama Tsongkhapa the different offerings like the water to drink, to wash his feet, of flowers, the perfume, incense, light, food, music. Lama Tsongkhapa, receiving these offerings, experiences a great sense of bliss with which he realizes the nature of everything. The offering deities come back and reabsorb in our heart. This ocean of clouds of mentally created and actual offerings, refreshing water, various flowers, fragrant incense, lights, perfumes, etc., I offer to you the supreme field for the collection of merit. In the presence of Lama Tsongkhapa, we admit openly all mistakes that we have made since beginningless time. Every time that we didn't uphold our commitments, every time that we used our body, speech, or mind in an aggressive, violent, non-virtuous way. We recognize our non-virtuous actions. In general, those generated towards the Dharma, towards our Guru, towards Lama Tsongkhapa. We ask Guru Buddha Lama Tsongkhapa his blessings to have the strength and clarity to not repeat these actions again. Light rays and nectar, white in color, come from Lama Tsongkhapa's crown to ours and fill up our body. Every negative karmic force generated by our previous actions dissolve and leave our body in the form of a dark smoke through our pores and dissolves and disappears in the space around us. Our body becomes pure and transparent. Our heart, our mind, free of tensions that were generated by the negative actions of the past. Our relationship with Lama Tsongkhapa and the Dharma and the Guru become pure, free from any kind of impurity. Whatever unwholesome actions committed by body, speech, and mind I have accumulated since beginning this time, especially transgressions of the 3 types of vows, with strong, heartfelt regret, I confess each and every one. The light rays and nectars fill up our body, and gradually all the tensions and negative karmic force that were generated since beginning of this time melt and dissolve as we generate the force, the strength to not repeat those actions again. We observe Lama Tsongkhapa and we feel a profound joy for all of his virtuous actions. We rejoice for the virtuous actions of every Buddha, every Bodhisattva, every sentient being. We rejoice for our own virtuous actions. Observing other beings, enlightened or not, our mind, our body fills up with joy by observing their virtue, observing their own joy, observing their qualities. We rejoice for every one of their actions, for every one of their qualities. In particular, we rejoice for the holy actions and the qualities of Lama Tsongkhapa. By striving for much learning and understanding in this degenerate age, and by abandoning the 8 worldly dharmas, you made your favorable rebirth meaningful. O Lord, in the great wave of your deeds, we rejoice from the depth of our hearts. We ask Guru Buddha Lama Tsongkhapa to guide us in every moment, to be with us and to guide us with the Holy Dharma. In every choice that we make, every word that we say, in every action that we do, every thought that we have. To be with us and to guide us with the Dharma in our lifetime and at the moment of our death, during the Bardo and in all our future lives. I request you, exalted and venerable Gurus, who have gathered clouds of wisdom and compassion in the space of Dharmakaya, in accordance with the needs of the field of your disciples, let the rain of the vast and profound Dharma thereby fall. We ask Guru Buddha Lama Tsongkhapa from the depth of our hearts to stay with us always, to guide us, to show himself in a way that we can interact with for as long as we need. You emerge from the sphere of clear light. And even though your body of union is not subject to birth and extinction, may your gross form body, the Rupakaya, that appears to ordinary beings, remain stable and never wane until the end of samsara. We observe the beings around us and we recognize, as we're asking for the blessings of Lama Tsongkhapa, follow, and we want to follow this path because we want to help these beings get out of their suffering. So we dedicate every virtuous action, every positive karmic force from the past, that now and what we will do in the future, we dedicate this so that all beings can reach Buddhahood, get out of suffering. Whatever virtue I have accumulated by this practice, may it benefit the teachings and all beings. Especially may the essence of the teachings of the Venerable Sumatikirti be illuminated forever. From the depth of our hearts, we ask Guru Buddha Lama Tsongkhapa to bless our body, speech and mind, so that we ourselves, we can develop our own qualities and become of his same nature for the benefit of all sentient beings. We offer the entire universe in the aspect of the mandala offering to Guru Buddha Lama Tsongkhapa as a sign of request for his blessings. By virtue of offering to you Assembly of Buddhas visualized before me, this mandala built on a base resplendent with flowers, saffron, water, and incense, adorned with Mount Meru and the 4 continents, as well as the sun and moon, may all share in its good effects. I offer you this precious mandala. As we make requests, light rays and nectar, white, red, and blue in color, yellow and green also in color, emanate from the 5 chakras of Guru Buddha Lama Tsongkhapa. White from the crown, red from the throat, blue from his heart, yellow from navel, and green from his secret chakra, and absorb into our respective 5 chakras. Gradually, our qualities relative to the 5 chakras, like wisdom, satisfaction, compassion, love, patience, humility, generosity, and the power of realization, and every other quality, they gradually develop, eliminating every mental defilement. And we receive the blessings of body, speech, and mind of Guru Buddha Lama Tsongkhapa. As we make requests, we imagine these 5 colored light rays absorb into us.
Kanche kepe tsugen tsongkapa losan trape shabla solwa de mime tsewe terchen chenrezi drime kembe wambo jambelian debu malu jomse sangwe da kanche kepe tsugen tsongkapa losan trape shabla solwa de mime tsewe terchen chenrezi Drime kembe wambo jambelian debu malu jomse sangweda kanche kebe tsugin tsungkapa losan rabe shabla solwa de mime tsewe terchen chenrezi Drime kembe wambo jambelian debu malu jomse sangweda kanche kebe tsugin tsungkapa losan rabe shabla solwa
Light rays and nectar, white in color, come from Lama Tsongkhapa's crown and absorb into our crown. Our qualities like wisdom, correct view of reality, inner space develop. Our negativities like ignorance is eliminated. Our negativities of body are purified, and we develop a perfectly balanced body in harmony. Drime kembe wambo jambelian debu malu jomse sangweda kanche kebe tsugen tsongkapa losan rabe shabla sowade mime tsewe terchen chenrezi drime kembe wambo jambelian debu malu jomse sangweda kanche kebe tsugen tsongkapa losan rabe shabla solwa Light, red light rays and nectar emanate from the throat of Lama Tsongkhapa, absorbing into our throat chakra, eliminating all negativities of speech. We develop satisfaction, concentration, pure speech, and we eliminate the unlimited attachment, unlimited desire, dissatisfaction, and violent speech. Every negativity of speech is purified. Every negative karmic force that was generated in the past through non-virtuous actions of our speech is purified.
terchen cherezi drime kembe wambo jambe lian debu malu chumse sangwe da kanche kebe tsungen tsongkhapa losan drape shabla solwa de mime tsewe terchen cherezi drime kembe wambo jambe lian debu malu chumse sangwe da kanche kebe tsungen tsongkhapa Losan trape shabla solwa de mime tsewe terchen cherezi Drime kembe wambo jambe liang Dubo malu chumse sangwe da kanche kebe tsugen tsongkhapa Losan trape shabla solwa de
Light rays and nectar, blue in color, emanate from the heart chakra of Lama Tsongkhapa and absorb into our heart chakra, eliminating all negativities related to our heart chakra and revitalizing our qualities, bringing us the blessings of mind. We develop love, compassion, patience, inner stability, and spontaneous joy. Consequently, our negativities like anger, hatred, resentment, anxiety, nervousness are completely pacified. Negative karmic forces generated in the past from negative actions of mind are completely pacified.
Losan drabe shabla solwa de mime tsewe terchen cherezi Drime kembe wambo jambe lian debu malu jumse sangwe da kanche kebe tsugen tsongkhapa Losan drabe shabla solwa de mime tsewe terchen cherezi Drime kembe wambo jambe Debu malu jumse sangwe da kanche kebe tsugen tsongkhapa Losan trape shabla solwa de
Light rays and nectar, yellow in color, emanate from the navel chakra of Lama Tsongkhapa and absorb into our own, eliminating our negativities and revitalizing our qualities, bringing us his blessings, in particularly related to our qualities. We develop humbleness, generosity, the wisdom of equality. We eliminate also naturally our arrogance, miserliness, and all the negativities related to our navel chakra.
Kanche kebe tsugen tsongkhapa Losan drabe shabla sowa de mime tsewe terchen cherezi Drime kembe wambo jambe liang Debu malu jumse sangwe da Kanche kebe tsugen tsongkhapa Losan drabe shabla solwa de mime tsewe terchen cherezi Drime kembe wambo jambe liang Debu malu jumse sangwe da kanche kebe tsugen tsongkhapa Losan drape shabla solwa de
Light rays and nectar, green in color, emanate from the secret chakra of Lama Tsongkhapa, Guru Buddha Lama Tsongkhapa, absorbing into our secret chakra. We receive all the blessings of Guru Buddha Lama Tsongkhapa related to our sacred, to our actions, from his holy actions. We eliminate all our negativities related to our secret chakra. We develop the power of realization, the certainty in every action, the ability to rejoice and the happiness for virtue. We eliminate jealousy, envy, fear, uncertainty.
Losan trape shabla sowa de mime tsewe terchen cherezi drime kembe wambo jambe lian dubu malu jumse sanwe da kanche kepe tsugen tsongkapa losan trape shabla solwa de mime tsewe terchen cherezi drime kembe wambo jambe lian Dubu malu jumse sangwe da kanche kebe tsugen tsongkapa losan trape shabla solwa de.
Light rays and nectar, white, red, blue, yellow, and green emanate from the 5 chakras of Guru Buddha Lama Tsongkhapa, absorbing into ours, reinforcing our qualities. The qualities we've developed become strong and stable within us.
Losan trape shabla solwa de mime tsewe terchen chenrezi drime kempe wangbo jambe lian dubu malu jumse sangwe da kanche kebe tsugen tsongkapa losan trape shabla solwa de mime tsewe terchen chenrezi drime kempe wangbo jambe lian Dubu malu jumse sangwe da kanche kepe tsugen tsongkapa losan trape shabla solwa de. Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Kirti Siddhi Hum 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 Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Kirti Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Kirti Siddhi Hum 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 Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Kirti Siddhi Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Kirti Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Kirti Siddhi Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Kirti Siddhi Hum 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 Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Kirti Siddhi Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Kirti Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Kirti Siddhi Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Kirti Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Kirti Siddhi Hum Omo a Guru Vajradhara Sumati Kirti Siddhi Hum. Omo a Guru Vajradhara Kirti Siddhi Hum. Pagina 30.
Page 30. From the depth of our heart, we ask Guru Buddha Lama Tsongkhapa to bless us and to become inseparable from us. Gyapsa Rinpoche, Kedorup Rinpoche, the two disciples on his side, absorb into Lama Tsongkhapa with kindness, with joy. Lama Tsongkhapa comes towards us, becoming as small as a thumb, and sits joyously at our crown, looking in our same direction. As he sits on our crown, our crown chakra becomes completely filled with joy, bliss, light, purifying any negativity of our body, revitalizing our inner qualities. Magnificent and precious Root Guru, please abide on the lotus and sun and moon seat at my crown, the lotus and moon seat at my crown. Guide me with your great kindness and grant me the realizations of your holy body, speech, and mind. At our heart chakra arises a blue 8-petaled lotus flower on which is a sun and moon seat. So Lama Tsongkhapa from our crown comes down to our heart, and he slowly descends from our crown to our throat, transforming completely our throat chakra. Our throat chakra, with its 16 channels, fills up with light and nectar and is purified from every negativity. Magnificent and precious Root Guru, please abide on the lotus and moon seat at my throat. Guide me with your great kindness, and please remain stable without any separation of my body, speech, and mind until I attain enlightenment. Guru Buddha Lama Tsongkhapa descends from our throat chakra within our central channel to our heart chakra, sits joyously at our heart chakra. Our heart chakra, with its 8 petals, 8 channels that are connected to our entire subtle body, is filled with light and nectar, and all negativities of the mind are purified. Our mind is blessed. We experience a deep sensation of joy. Guru Buddha sits at our heart. Magnificent and precious Root Guru, please abide on the lotus and moon seat at my heart. Guide me with your great kindness, and please remain stable without separation from my body, speech, and mind until I attain enlightenment. Guru Buddha, Lama Tsongkhapa, remains stable at our hearts, at our heart. We allow ourselves for a moment to go beyond and to let go of our ordinary identity. Our body, speech, and mind, on a subtle level, our subtle body, speech, and mind become overwhelmed by those of Lama Tsongkhapa. We melt into Lama Tsongkhapa, becoming one and inseparable with Lama Tsongkhapa. We allow ourselves to rest our mind in the mind of Lama Tsongkhapa. We rest our body in the body of Lama Tsongkhapa, and we rest our speech in the speech of Lama Tsongkhapa. We experience perfect physical relaxation and clarity in our speech, and clarity and harmony of every phenomenon. We become inseparable and of the same nature of Lama Tsongkhapa. In a deep state of peace and love and harmony, Lama Tsongkhapa stays seated at our heart on the 8-petaled lotus. The petals close, protecting Lama Tsongkhapa at our heart, and within the lotus flower there are the five colored five colors like a rainbow, and within it's like a huge crystal palace, and within the lotus flower there's a mantra garland. The mantra Om Arapatsanadi Guru Sumati Kiti Shri Patra Siddhi Atishkana Atishkiti Kur Bantu. And Lama Tsongkhapa stays at our heart, guiding us, supporting us with every word that we say, every choice that we make, every thought that we have.
Sarva siddhi atishtana atishtite kurbentu.
In all my lives, through the victorious one, Lama Tsongkhapa, acting in person as the Mahayana Guru, may I never turn aside, even for an instant, from the excellent path praised by the victorious ones.
keche tsamyan dokpar margyurci.
May the holy teachers have a long life. May the enlightened activities be fully displayed in the 10 directions, and may the brightness of the teachings of Lama Tsongkhapa continuously dissipate the veil of darkness covering the beings of the 3 realms. Throughout all my lives, may I never be separated from the perfect Guru, and so enjoy the splendor of Dharma, perfecting the virtues of the paths and bhumis. May I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. May the precious Buddhi mind, which has not yet arisen, arise and grow. May that which has arisen have no decline and increase forevermore. By this merit, having quickly attained the state of Guru Buddha, may I establish every sentient being without a single exception to that state. At dawn or at dusk, at night or midday, may the 3 jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. In this way, we conclude the practice of the Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa. And now, before beginning the 3 principal aspects of the path, we will take a brief 5-minute break, a Swiss 5 minutes, and then we'll start again.
to kayo me bawa, supo kayo me bawa, anurakto me bawa, sarva siddhi me prayatsam, sarva karma sutsame, Citam Shreyam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tattagata Vajra Mame Munsa Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Sashipe ki choshime to Tramare Rabalinga she Nide Gempadi Sange Shinto Mikte Ulwarki Drokunam Dashinla Chöpar Shoyi Damanguru Ratna Mindrala Kamniryata Yami Sangye Chedan Tsoge Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsuchi Dagi Chishe Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchre Sangye Drupare Sho Sangye Chedan Tsoge Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsuchi Dagi Chishe Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchre Sangye Drupare Sho Sangye Chedan Tsogi Chonam La Jancho Pardo Dani Kyapsuchi Dagi Chishe Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sangye Drupar Sho Nel Buddha, nel Dharma
In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. With the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Now, before beginning the explanation, the transmission of one of what I consider the most important texts of one of the texts within Buddhism, was very good. It's very auspicious that in this moment that Aldo brought me now this biography of Lama Tsongkhapa that was published by the Italian Buddhist Union. There are many different versions of Lama Tsongkhapa's biographies, some longer than others. This is the mid-brief biography. Is long enough for, it's quite long for many of us. But if you want to know every detail of his life, there are very, very long biographies. But this one is quite is a good length, and I encourage you to read his biography. At a certain point in his life, as I explained yesterday, he had this vision of Manjushri, the Buddha of wisdom, and who then accompanied him and guided him for many years of his life, was his main master. And one of the most important things that Lama Tsongkhapa shared he says that he received directly from Buddha Manjushri is how to summarize the teachings in an easy way, easy to also practice, and at the same time that encompasses everything. But it is said that Buddha's teachings are like a great ocean that's vast and profound. If you go to any point of the ocean, it's profound and it's extremely vast. If we take, for example, all the sutras of Buddha, today, most of them are available in English. If one really wanted to, one could could even try some automatic translations. One could read in other languages like Italian. I've tried, but I've read some of these sutras, and they're quite cryptic. It's difficult to understand what the meaning is because they're written in a way. They're written in a completely different context than our own, about sutras that come from about 2,500 years ago. That on one hand they're marvelous, on another hand they're extremely difficult. That's why we use this metaphor where it's said that and no matter how wonderful the sun is and vast, it gets everywhere. We need a magnifying glass to get its essence and to direct its rays. And the teachings of Buddhas are like the sun, but we need this magnifying glass so that can take the essence of all those teachings, the magnifying glass that can take all the sun's rays and create fire, actually get the essence of the teachings. And if you look over the centuries, the various books that were written, one of the main functions of a spiritual guide was to adapt the teachings to the times and the abilities of his own disciples without losing any of the essence of the teachings. And this has come in many, many different contexts, be it for the sutra teachings, tantric teachings. For example, the correct view of reality. The Buddhist teachings, Buddha transmitted what's called the Sutra of the Perfection of Wisdom, the Prajnaparamita Sutra. In the various sutra of Buddhas, he transmitted these teachings in different moments of his life, in different versions, some more detailed, some less. So the transcription of these teachings, there's 100,000 verses, there's a middle length verses of 20,000 verses, and then there's also one that's 8,000 verses, and then there's the extremely short version, which is the Heart Sutra, and heart really means essence. It's the summary of the summary. It's the essence of the essence of the perfection of Wisdom Sutra. 100,000 verses on one side and just a few on the other. But if we take these sutras, it would be very, very difficult, really, to get the essence, even the Heart Sutra itself, without a commentary, without someone who guides us. It would be difficult. So over the centuries, there was Nagarjuna, and Nagarjuna wrote a book called Uma Nawat Serab, which is the root of the wisdom of the middle way, where he comments the perfection of wisdom. And that commentary can actually be applied to the long, middle, and short version. But as a reference, we have the 8,000 verse sutra. But I challenge any one of you to take Nagarjuna's commentary and read it. It's difficult. One needs to really spend years of preparation to be able to pick up and read this commentary. That's why there are masters who came after and commented that work. And Lama Tsongkhapa, one of the last books that he wrote, he died relatively young, maybe 65, 67 years old, which is not young for Tibet at the time. But at 65, he wrote the text where he comments on the text of Nagarjuna, which was this commentary on the Sutra of Buddha, which is much more understandable than that one. But that one also needs to study. And when you study the Uma Rabsel, which clarifies the middle way of Nagarjuna, there are many commentaries that actually have been written more recently in Tibet. Each monastic monastery has its own commentary to study this commentary by Lama Tsongkhapa. There's a commentary with general meanings, where explanations are given on the correct view of reality, and then other commentaries where there are the doubts that have been that have come up over time, and then hypothetical doubts that can come out and are useful for debate. And to study this book of Lama Tsongkhapa in a thorough way, one needs to dedicate 4 years, 11 months a year. 6 days a week, and not just once a week. But who among us has that availability? Very, very few. So there are also other commentaries, even in the teachings of Lamrim, and this opens up a new type of teachings, where the essence of teachings is transmitted in an easier way, a more accessible way, directed more to the practice. So here the philosophical structure is very well established, and then so we can have very short teachings, and all of that can be reassumed in 3 verses, which everything that's in the commentary of Lama Tsongkhapa, of Nagarjuna, of the Sutra Buddhas. So we have, over this process of centuries, there are those who not only had the perfect understanding and realizations of what had been taught, but had this ability to summarize and to adapt to the minds of their disciples. And this has been handed down from generation to generation to us. And at a certain point, a disciple of Lama Tsongkhapa, he asked him for teachings, and he physically wasn't close, and so he wrote in the form of a letter. He wrote the essence. He said, beyond everything that exists, the essence is this. What you need to practice is here, and this is known later as the 3 principal aspects of the path. And it's something where, in just a few words, Lama Tsongkhapa summarized all of Buddha's teachings, the 108 volumes of Buddha's teachings, the entire Lamrim, long books with many, many details. It summarized what does one do on this path Buddhas. What is the Dharma? And it's transmitted in a very clear, coherent, simple way in very, very few words. And this, for me, is one of the most marvelous texts that I've ever read. And if I've had to choose among all texts, if everything else disappears, and I hope never to have to make a decision like this, but the text that I would choose, even though it's a very, very difficult, a difficult choice, it would be this text. The three principal aspects of the path. It is certainly among the first five most important texts. And once we have that clarity, then we can take other texts and get into details and deepen them. But we start always from this text. If Lama Tsongkhapa, if he hadn't written the 18 volumes and had written only the three principal aspects of the path, that would be more than enough. It's really one of the most important texts related to practice and direction. So now I will give you the transmission of the text, and then we will begin. We will begin its the reading and a brief commentary. We have these 3 days, but we would need at least a week, a minimum, even more. A short month we would need, because it's the summarization of everything. So every we can expand on it deeply. I received this from Geshe Thupten Rimchen, my teacher, also from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, His Holiness Chichen Rinpoche, the abbot of Tashi Lumpo, Kachen Losam Punsok, also from Geshe Yeshe Wanchuk, from Drago Rinpoche, and now I share with you this transmission. So first, imagine from Lama Tsongkhapa, and then to his student Nawan Dagmo, like a flow of nectar and light that comes from heart to heart, from all the masters to my heart, and from my heart to you.
Kune chinjir tomarnge junze sho kune chinjir tomarnge junze de juni ga sela lome ba yela gombe zedina chedo lenre milo korwe dunge na yanya sambe chime na chedo te dar gombe korwe penzola imun geji samnya mi geji ninze kundu darba danyelo chuna de zenge junge bala nge junde ya namda zemge gi simba mena lame janjo ki penzo dewe gyuro mi gyurwe lode namge janjo zemjo ki shura jo shi kyungi ger doga chigi lingwa doga legi chingwa thambe dan dansin chage dawe buksu tsu mari mimbe magjen kune ti mime sibar keshin ke waru dunga sumgi gyunjem Nekabdinra gyurwe manamgi nganzo samne semjo kebarzo nelo tobe shera mide nange junjanjo semla komje kya sibe tsawa chobra minwe pe te jirtenre tobe tabla be khanshi korde chunam tamche ki gyunre namya luwa me donshi Mikbe teso kanyen kunsheba tenye sangye kebe lamla shu nama tenre luwa me padan tomba kelen chalwe kolwa ni jisi susur nama tese tu tadun tupe gomba toba me namshi rejo me bar chicha to tenre milur toma tsamnine Nishe yuki zindang kunjina tete tawe cheba zobala shen anawe yoda sewa dan tombe meda sishin tomba ni gyudan rebu charwe zojena tarzin tawe troba mi gyuro tetar lamge tsowa namzumgi Nena amrangi jishin tobe ze emba tende tsunru topgene tengi duma nyurtu trupshi pu sheba dini mandu tebe gelo losan trabe peke tsakwa ngawa trabala damba wo Tekchen lamge shunshe janchu sen yandan tawe nedan rimnye la trume nge ba nene tsumba yin Kyosun drupa nimbro che parasho.
Let's start directly from the text. Jetsun Lama Namla Chatselo. I bow down to my venerable gurus. Lama Tsongkhapa begins, first of all, by praising his gurus. This has different meanings, and we're not going to go into all the details. His masters start mostly from Buddha Manjushri, and then there are all the other masters that guided him. Let's remember that he had more than 100 masters in his lifetime. But the teachings of the three principal aspects of the path, he received them directly from Buddha Manjushri. One of the main reasons why there is the praise to one's gurus at the beginning of a text is also to show us two things. One, that what Lama Tsongkhapa is going to share and write is not something that he invented himself. It's something that he received from his masters, and they received from their masters, coming from an uninterrupted lineage all the way back to Buddha Shakyamuni. And so he's not inventing anything. He's sharing what he had previously received. And there's also he transmits what has already been transmitted, but adapting it to our needs, and there isn't the defect of repeating what has already been said. And by praising masters at the beginning is also a way to show us at the beginning of one's spiritual path, one needs to rely correctly on one's spiritual guide. It shows that we need help to grow, to learn something. So if I'm by myself, what I can do, I can only access what I already know. There are these studies actually that say that about 80% of our thoughts are repetitions of previous thoughts. And so how can we learn new things? By coming into contact with other things, by interacting with other things. And it's one of the most important things is to enter into contact with someone who can help us widen our view, help us transform our experience, our worldview. And this is called the guru. It's not necessarily a person within a Buddhist context. We can have many gurus. We've talked about this in other contexts. Yesterday we talked about it a little bit too. But the point is, if I want to learn something, even in the mundane world, I need someone who can teach me. Someone might say, no, I teach myself by alone. I watch YouTube videos. Well, you're learning from there. If you want to learn without someone teaching you, then it's through a process of trial and error. You try something, you see what works, you try again. Hopefully you try again without repeating the same errors. But the way to learn without someone teaching us, then it's through trial and error. You keep trying different things. Obviously, you can learn like this, but one of the most marvelous characteristics that we have as human beings is that we're able to hand down from generation to generation our knowledge and our experience. From scientific realm to literature to music, and also in the spiritual realm. Wherever we go, the experience and the knowledge that someone gathers, one is able to share that hand it down to future generations. So today when we go to learn something, it's a combination of the experience and the knowledge handed down from previous generations. And this allows us to take a step forward and to not have to start from scratch every time. That would be an infinitely long process. Look at engineering and science in architecture, and it's the same thing along the spiritual path. So this first point, if I want to learn something, first of all, I need to find someone who can teach me, who can guide me correctly. And here we could go into long explanations about finding the correct guide and the characteristics we should look for. But remember that Buddha said you shouldn't believe in me just because I said so, because I'm a Buddha. You should take my teachings and analyze them, observe them in the same way that one does when they buy gold. I don't know how many of you have gone to buy gold. Certainly not in the antique way. Today, if you want to buy gold, what do you do? I don't know. I've never done it. But I imagine that one goes to the bank, or you go where they sell sell gold, certified gold. But in the past, one didn't just trust that it was gold. One had to burn it, had to scratch it, cut it, to see if it was real gold or not. If you if you come to buy gold from me and you cut it and you burn it and you scratch it and you see that it's gold, then you need to buy it. And Buddha said that to do the same thing, before trusting me as a guide, you need to first burn and cut and scratch, analyze the teachings in every way, left and right, above and below. So make sure that they are congruent and beneficial. Once we assure ourselves that they are, then we need to follow them. So in that first verse, which says, I bow down to my venerable spiritual guides, gurus, masters, it's a way to say at the beginning of the path, it's important to meet one or more people with whom we can trust. The qualities that one should look for are three: kebab, sumpa, and sampo. Ketsun sansu. We look for the quality of great knowledge. Keba means to have a great knowledge, a great learned person. If I look for someone to teach me engineering, I need someone who needs to know about engineering. If I'm looking for someone to teach me about the path of the Buddha taught, he needs to have a great understanding of that path. So, and then one can see if one has this knowledge or not, the way they explain, etc. The second, sumpa, the second level, means to have morality, to be someone who has a coherence between what he teaches and what he practices, not just one should be an example of what he transmits. So having morality means also have to avoid what is negative, to have to embrace what is positive, have coherence between what he practices and what he teaches. And sampo, the third level, is having a good heart, a good motivation, a good intention, which means he teaches me because he loves me. He guides me spiritually because my spiritual development is important to him, and not because he has some kind of mundane or personal benefit of manipulation or anything like that. So just and then we can add to these, but at the basis, before trusting someone spiritually, it's important that this person has a good knowledge of what we want to learn, that has experience and is true in his practice and what he's teaching, and that he or she has a good heart towards us, an attitude of love towards us. It has a motivation, a pure motivation. These are the three fundamental characteristics that we should look for, because if we find someone who has a great knowledge but doesn't have this coherence between what he teaches and how he lives, it's not going to work. And it's difficult to really know the level of coherence there. But then maybe we have someone who has those first two, but actually doesn't have a good motivation, or has a motivation that's based on some kind of material gain or power. At that point, that's not good either. How it's only through experience that we can know these things. That's why it said that before entrusting yourself to a spiritual guide, one should experience them. To experience. It's an Italian saying that we need to eat a lot of salt together, a big bag of salt together. In the Vajrayana, in Vajrayana Buddhism, it's said that we should have 12 years of experience with that person, where in those 12 years we should be analyzing and really looking how he or she is, which doesn't mean looking for defects, but simply we shouldn't trust blindly. So when Lama Tsongkhapa says in this first verse, I bow down to my venerable gurus, it shows us that that first part of the path, we need to rely correctly on a spiritual guide. This is our starting point. There's something that comes even before, which is so that I entrust myself to a spiritual guide. First of all, I need to want to follow a spiritual path. I mean, how can I follow? So here we can debate, what comes first, the relying correctly on the spiritual guide or understanding the spiritual path. But first we develop a desire towards the so-called nirvana, wanting to get out of suffering, wanting to develop ourselves spiritually. And only when we have that desire of a sincere inner development, then we can be ready to rely on a spiritual guide. This is the basis. Once we have entrusted ourselves to a spiritual guide, and I repeat, it can be one or many, we can also trust. We can entrust ourselves also to those who are not living, and to past masters, Lama Tsongkhapa, the Buddha Shakyamuni. So with these then he starts with two verses. In the first one, he manifests his commitment. He summarized what he's going to talk about. And then in that second verse, he summarizes everything. So he begins by saying, Gyalwe surab kungi nyumpodun, gyal sadampa nam ki nang palam, kalden tardo nam ki chono deji tarnushin dagi sheparcha. And this is called in Tibetan Sumpar Semchawa, the commitment of composition. In many important texts, the first part of the text begins with praise, and then right away there's a commitment. What I'll talk about, what I'll write about, what this text is about. And here Lama Tsongkhapa says, I shall try to explain as best I can the essential meaning of the Victorious One's teachings, the path praised by all the holy victors and their children, the gateway of the fortunate ones desiring liberation. I shall try to explain as best I can, which means I will put in a few words something that is vast and profound. Kyenkyuwa in Tibetan is very common at the beginning of important texts, where these great masters express an act of humility. He doesn't say, oh, I'm going to explain in an excellent and perfect way, even though he does. But he says, I'm going to explain as best I can, also to not put himself in, not to show superiority. Even at the beginning of Bodhisattva Charvatara, Shanti Sevis says, I composed this text even though I'm not very skilled in the art of composition. He says, I am not writing this to benefit anyone, but just to familiarize my own mind. It's a way to generate an act of humbleness and to not show any sense or sign of superiority. Kyenkyuwa in Tibetan, which means to empty that which fills up. Kyenpa means full. It's like arrogance. It's a word for arrogance. And kyuwa means to empty. So we empty the arrogance. And that's done at the beginning of texts. And if you see many lamas when they talk at the beginning, those maybe the classic Tibetans or older Tibetans, when they begin to say something, they say, I don't have anything to say, I don't understand anything, but okay, but since I'm here, I'll share what I know. And then they're there for talking for 8 hours. This is classic. So when he says, I'll explain as best I can, I will explain just in a few words something vast and profound. And the next 3 lines make reference to all 3 aspects of the path. You can read it twice. So the essential meaning of the Victorious One's teachings is, if we take all the teachings of Buddhas, they can be summarized in the graduated path towards enlightenment, the Lamrim, and they're also in the 3 principal aspects of the path. The path praised by all the holy victors and their children, the bodhisattvas, those who follow the path towards enlightenment with sincere love. This is the path that they praise, and it's actually one of the principal aspects of one of the principal aspects, and also the gateway of the fortunate ones desiring the liberation. So the gateway of the fortunate ones are the 3 principal aspects of the path. That's one reading. A second reading is the first line is the Nejung, the first of the 3 principal aspects of the path. It was translated badly as renunciation. A more correct translation would be the certainty to emerge, the definite emergence. And today we'll talk about this. We'll talk about this first aspect, this certainty to get out of the cycle of surfeiting. which is very different from the concept of renunciation. And so renunciation instead gives us an idea of sacrifice and has nothing to do with sacrifice. If we were to use the word renunciation, then we would say renunciation to suffering and the causes of suffering, but the more appropriate term would be definite emergence. Emergence, like coming up from water. To emerge. So it's definite emergence. That would be it's kind of a strange term for us. Renunciation sounds closer to our culture, but brings a different idea. So definite emergence is the essential meaning of the Victorious One's teachings, because in all the teachings of Buddha, one common point is this desire to want to get out of suffering, this definite emergence, and we find it in the Hinayana, Mahayana, Vajrayana teachings. It's at the basis, and it's can translate it as loving oneself. The part of teachings that make reference to recognizing what's good for us, recognizing what's bad for us, learn how to cultivate what is beneficial, and learn how to avoid what is negative. And this is at the basis of all the Buddhist teachings. So this definite emergence is the essential meaning of the Victorious One's teachings. The path praised by all the holy victors and their children, this second verse, is bodhicitta, this mind of enlightenment, is the total determination to want to develop one's own qualities to their maximum potential, become a Buddha, as a means to help beings get out of suffering. So it's a deep feeling of love and compassion. It's an altruistic state that sees helping others as the way to develop oneself. So that's the bodhicitta is the path praised by the holy victors and their children, the bodhisattvas. So the path praised by all of them is bodhicitta. It's the second of the three principal aspects of the path. The gateway of the fortunate ones desiring liberation, the fortunate ones makes reference to those who desire to get out of the cycle of suffering and recognize that this cycle of suffering can be overcome not through material development, but through inner development of wisdom, love, and compassion. And these are the fortunate ones. The fortunate ones that desires liberation, desires getting out of suffering, the gateway that allows him to enter that is the correct view of reality, because the root of our suffering is ignorance. And so to get out of ignorance, to overcome suffering, is by developing wisdom. Wisdom is the correct view of reality, and the day after tomorrow we'll talk about this. But the correct view of reality is the doorway, it's the gateway of the fortunate ones desiring liberation, because it's not possible to get out of the cycle of suffering from samsara, and we'll talk about what samsara is. It's impossible to get out of it without developing correct view of reality. So I shall try to explain as best I can the essential meaning of the Victorious One's teachings, or definite emergence, Nechung, the path praised by all holy victors and their children, bodhisattvas, bodhicitta, the altruistic mind of enlightenment, and the gateway of the fortunate ones desiring liberation, or or rather, the correct view of reality. And here, Lama Tsongkhapa gives us the basis, the basis of what he's going to talk about. And the next verse, he says who he's talking to. He says, if you fall into this category of listeners or readers, then keep reading. It says, Ganden sipe de la machakshing de joradunyo la chiratsupayi. It's the incentive to listening. Traditionally, when we study the text, it's important to understand who the teachings were transmitted to. To understanding the container, the contents can be different. So who are these teachings for? So this is the incentive for listening. To people who have three characteristics: those who are not attached to the pleasures of samsara, those who strive to make this life of freedom and endowments meaningful, and those who entrust themselves to the path pleasing the victorious ones. These fortunate ones should listen closely. Do we fall in these categories? Those who are not attached to the pleasures of samsara. This is a prerequisite to listen to teachings of on definite emergence. I mean, are we attached to the pleasures of samsara? Should we close up this book and go home? But the main meaning here is very often there are situations where one doesn't see anything other than sensory pleasures, power, wealth, as a means to give meaning to life. And life revolves around this. And someone who doesn't want to dedicate his life to power and wealth or solely to pleasures, and if someone who's like that is considered crazy. In other words, if we are totally slave to power and material wealth, sensory pleasures, and we don't have any openness to anything else, it's useless to follow the Buddhist teachings. If we're not slaves, I mean, obviously we have attachments to the mundane pleasures. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here talking about it. We wouldn't need to listen to the three principal aspects of the path. We would have already reached our destination. So the first condition is to not be a slave to these three things, mundane pleasures, to not live in total, not live enslaved to attachment to power, to image, to sensory pleasures, and material wealth. We don't want to live our lives dedicated solely to these things. And this is the first prerequisite. So those who are not attached to the pleasures of samsara, that's the condition to be open to receive the teachings and understand what is called this definite emergence, renunciation. The second condition, those who strive to make this life of freedom and endowments meaningful, to listen about the altruistic mind of bodhicitta. It's important to recognize that we have unique conditions and that we don't want to lose. We see that we have unique conditions. We have an amazing opportunity, and we want to make this life meaningful. We don't want to waste this life. Actually, if we have that first condition and we're missing the second, the first part of the text actually helps us develop the second part. And the second part helps us develop that third condition. But to listen to all three, it's necessary to have an openness to the spiritual path and to have a desire to make this life meaningful. And who also those who entrust themselves to the path pleasing the victorious ones. That's the one that Buddha transmitted. Have a minimum amount of aspiration, where we see that we see those who have followed his path, and we say, oh, how wonderful, I like to go in that same direction, some desire for that direction. That's the minimum that we need for the development of the correct view of reality. If we have these conditions, we have an openness to the spiritual path. We want to make this life meaningful. We have an aspiration towards the path that was transmitted by Buddha. We want to go in that direction. Then we need to listen closely, with attention, be present with to not listen superficially but deeply, to be present as we listen. So by eliminating the three defects of the containers and developing the six the three containers, the defective containers, to avoid is to not be like an upside down pot, because what happens if you have an upside down pot? And any water that goes in, it can't go. It is poured on top. It can't go in, and that happens when the information comes, but they don't get inside. We're not paying attention. The second defective container is where we're present, but we have tremendous amount of forgetfulness. It's the pot that is the vase that is full of holes. The water goes in, but then it runs right out. So we're listening, but our presence isn't solid, and we lose what comes in. And the third one to avoid, maybe where the pot is upright, it's without holes, but it's dirty inside. If it's dirty with poison, even if it doesn't matter how much clean, pure water I pour in, anything I pour in will be polluted. And this can be, we're listening to pure Dharma, but if I have feelings of aversion or jealousy, if I'm feeling envious, if I have aversion or feelings of attachment or prejudices, anything I listen to, I'm going to pollute that with my mental defilements. So we should at least have a neutral state of mind. And so here, when it says listen closely, it's that. But we should also be developing the six awarenesses. The six awarenesses briefly are, the first is the awareness of oneself as a patient, as a sick patient. Or rather, I'm listening to these teachings not because I want to become a Tibetan, that I want to be a Buddhist professor, or because I want to have knowledge for knowledge's sake. No, I need to develop something within. I want to better something within. I'm the patient. My sickness is selfishness. I have symptoms of suffering and dissatisfaction, symptoms of fear, etc., etc. So I am like the sick patient. Who transmits the Dharma is like the doctor, And what's the job of a doctor along the healing practice? To heal us or to give us the right diagnosis and give us the right medicine? No doctor can heal us. So the job of a doctor is to give us the correct diagnosis and to give us the treatment. And our job is to follow. So I'm the sick patient. He who transmits the Dharma is like the doctor. And the Dharma that I receive is like the medicine. That's the third awareness. The medicine. And the fourth awareness is I can heal. I believe that I have the potential for healing. I can cure myself of this sickness. I can get out of this cycle of suffering. I believe in my ability to heal. And the fifth awareness is that by taking the medicine that one heals, that by putting into practice the teachings is how we heal and not just receiving them. And that sixth awareness is that the process is not immediate. It's long and graduated. If I have a chronic illness, I need to repeat the treatment many, many times. The process to heal ourselves of our selfishness, our ignorance, is a very, very long and graduated process. So when I go to listen or read the three principal aspects of the path, it's not, because I like Buddhism and I want to study. No, I need to look at my ignorance and my egocentric mind. I'm the patient. The one who transmits the Dharma, Lama Tsongkhapa, is the doctor. The three principal aspects of the path is the medicine. I have the possibility to be healed. And by taking the medicine, by putting into practice the teachings, I am following the treatment. And the process of healing is long, and there's no hurry to reach my destination. There's a hurry to start walking, to start following the treatment. And these are the six awarenesses with which one should listen to the teaching. So when Lama Tsongkhapa says, listen closely, Yigi Nun in Tibetan, it's actually listen with your mind. And here he makes reference to also abandoning the three defective containers and to listen with the six awarenesses. And if we can do this with everything, it just changes completely the dynamics of how we listen to the teachings. Sometimes we listen to teachings because we've put ourselves in this category of being Buddhist and we like Buddhism. But if I don't see myself as a patient and I don't have the awareness that by taking the medicine is what's going to cure me, there's the danger of collecting teachings. Oh, I received this, that, and the other. Like those who those who collect doctors. I've been to this doctor and that doctor. I can go to all the greatest doctors, but if I don't follow the treatment, it's not going to work. So, in the same way, and we also make a collection of medicine. I go to all the different doctors. I buy all the medicine. I display them nicely. I know all the different kinds of treatments. I'm an expert on all kinds of diets. I understand everything here and there, but I don't follow any diet with constancy. You know, I do a little bit here, a little bit there, and I'm always at my starting point. the healing process is long and graduated and requires constancy. And the same thing with Dharma. I'm the patient, really, and the one who guides me has the responsibility of giving me the tools that I then use to heal myself. So I receive with awareness and I put into practice by familiarizing myself with this. And then gradually, how can I put into practice? In meditation and also in between in my daily life. And I believe that I can do it. I have faith in myself, because even if I go to the best of doctors, but I don't believe that I can heal, it's not going to work. And at the end, I'm aware that this process is graduated. It's gradual, and I don't live in this expectation that I should become a Buddha in the third week of practice or after 5 years of practicing. But I'm aware that this is a long process. So I don't walk with the attachment of result, but with this need of being on the path in the right direction. Because if I'm walking in the right direction, every step I take takes me closer. How long it's going to take, I don't know. There are many different levels, and the spiritual practice is like an X. At the beginning, there's the 2 points, one high and one low, and then when you get to the destination, the high point becomes the low, and the low becomes the high. So at the beginning, our mental defilements were able to face a lot with little effort. But as our mental defilements become more and more subtle, then we need more and more effort to face them. It's a little bit like cleaning. If I have a very dirty table, to take away the coarse level of dirt, you take a big broom and look how clean it is. But then you see the stains of the oil that's gone into the wood. The deeper the stain, the more subtle the stain, the greater the amount of effort to clean it is. So at the beginning, we need less effort, but as we go forward, the effort that is required to face what is deeper and more subtle, that effort is greater. The good news is that as we go on, we suffer less. But as we go forward, the path becomes longer somehow. So that's why the path is divided into 5 paths. 1/3 of the path is to get out of the cycle of suffering, to get out of samsara. 2/3 is to become a Buddha. In other words, 1/3 is to eliminate ignorance, and the 2/3 is to eliminate the imprints of ignorance. The good news is that for 2/3 of the path, there's no more suffering. It's much easier, let's say. But just to say that the path is long and graduated, there's steps, and it's good that it's fine that it's like this. It's important to have this awareness and not have this expectation that one will become enlightened immediately, like in our own sicknesses. The more acute symptoms are easier to face, but bringing the body to a state of balance on a deeper level is harder, and even more so when we talk about chronic illnesses. So with this, we have the essence of what Lama Tsongkhapa will discuss in this text. And it's a marvelous tool to have clarity of what we want in life. Just making a very short summary. Just summarizing this definite emergence, this certainty to get out, is where we love ourselves, where we learn what's good for us and what's bad for us, where we clarify what we want in this life. What direction do I give to myself? This is the first step. The second step is where the second point of bodhicitta is where we learn how to love others, where we go beyond our own selfishness. And the third passage is where we learn how to have a coherent, consistent view of reality, where we eliminate our ignorance, which is the basis of all our mental defilements, and where we create harmony with ourselves, with others, with phenomena. And then Lama Tsongkhapa gives us the essence on how to do this. Let's conclude now, conclude here for now, and then today after lunch we will look at the first verses related to the definite emergence, and then comes the bodhicitta and correct reality, and we'll look at each one with calma.
Losan tempe drume sasumgi drove munsela tato ne gyurchi kewa kunto yanda lama dang dralme chuki pela longch sadan lamge yunte rabzone dorje change kopa nyurtobasho nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan dele kshin Nyensen takto delek pe kuncho sumke chingi lob kuncho sumke ngodrubot sol kuncho sumke
At dawn or at dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.
Pegedrolo zambe zebra che pande lame shela chepa bu kanshi tremba tsamgi chinangi parche kwensele shi trin so se gyache shungde ringa tse tensun kordan chela chepa bu kenam chechin sowa tabe tu daso kantu nebe sacho dir nedan ulpom tapso shiwadan chedan trashi pewar zedu so. Buon appetito.
Have a good lunch, and we'll see each other at 3:30.